This is section 2.3, truth tables, negation, conjunction, and the disjunction. So first of all, what a truth table does is it shows the resulting truth table of a compound statement for all the possible truth values for the simple statements. So for instance, if I have a compound statement and I have two possibilities for each of those simple statements. Each of those simple statements can be true or false. So what the truth table does is tells you what is the result of all possibilities for each one of those simple statements in regards to being formed into a compound statement. So before we do any of the compound statements, we're going to look at the negation, because remember, the negation means the opposite value or not. So for the negation, if I have P, I am holding a marker, then the negation of P would be I am not holding a marker. So it's negation, right? So let's say that statement P was true. Then if I negate it, I negate true to get false. Let's say that statement was false. If I negate the false statement, then that makes it true. So negation just makes the truth values opposite. So if it was true, it becomes false. And if it's false, it becomes true. That's negation. Okay, conjunction. So conjunction is and or but. So those two we're looking at now. So conjunction is a compound statement where we have both P and Q. So if P is I am holding a marker and Q is I am standing on one foot, when we put these together, let's see what the result is. Okay? If P is true and Q is true, then the result of that will be true. If P is true and Q is false, the result of that will be false. If P is false and T is true, then the result of that will be false. And finally, if P is false and Q is false, the result of that will be false. So with and is a very, very, very strong statement. Both P and Q, both simple statements, must be true for the result to be true. Otherwise, it's false. So I'll give you an instance. If I'm applying for a passport, I have to complete the entire application and I have to submit a picture. So the simple statement would be completing the entire application, and the other simple statement would be attaching a picture. So if I don't do one of those, my application isn't even going to be looked at and will not be approved. So both P and Q have to be true with and. Okay? So the only time and that's the conjunction, is true is when both P and Q are true. Otherwise, the result of the compound statement is false. So the last column I just wrote up, these are the results. Okay, so these are all the possible outcomes I can have when I have two simple statements with an and. Okay, so what does this mean? This means in row 1, P was true and Q is true, therefore the result is true. In row 2, P was true, Q is false, so the result is false. In row 3, P was false, Q is true, the result was false. And in row 4, P was false, Q is false, so the result was false. Okay, you have to memorize the conjunction. Okay, this has to be memorized. So again, the only time and is true is when both P and Q are true. Otherwise, it's false. So now let's look at the disjunction. Disjunction is or. Okay, or. So the disjunction has two simple statements and they're put together with the word or. So let's look at this together. P is true or Q is true, the result is true. If P is true or Q is false, the result is true. If P is false or Q is true, the result is true. And finally, if P is false or Q is false, the result is false. So with the disjunction or with or, it's true unless both P and Q are false, because or is not as strong as and. Or has some leeway. I'm going to give you guys an example. If I have a scratch-off ticket and it says I have 3 symbols that I have to get to win, or I can get a money bag symbol and I win, whatever prize is shown. So that means if I scratch it off and I have 3 symbols, then I win. If I have the money bag symbol and that's it, I still win. If I have both, then I win. The only time I lose on that scratch-off ticket is if I don't have 3 symbols that are alike and I don't have a money bag symbol. So again, or is stronger than and. It's true unless both are false. So the only time or the disjunction is false is when both P and Q are false. Otherwise, the result of the compound statement is true. Okay? Again, you need to memorize this. So you need to memorize the conjunction and the disjunction and also the negation. Okay, so now we're going to be putting some things together. So in order to put things together, we have to know that there's an order of logical operations in compound statements. So the first thing we want to do is if we see parentheses of any type, square parentheses or rounded parentheses, we're going to do those first. So whatever's inside the parentheses go first. Then we look for negations. Do the negation first. Then you do conjunction, disjunction, conditional, and finally the biconditional. Okay? We haven't done conditional and biconditional yet. We will be doing that in the next section. So right now we're only going to see conjunction, disjunction, negation. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop the video and we're going to do part 2. We're going to pick up on that. So thanks for watching part 1 and please watch the next video.